Welcome to season 13 of the Parenting Aces podcast, a proud member of the Tennis Channel Podcast Network. I'm your host, Lisa Stone, and this is a special bonus episode of the podcast as we talk with Dave Mullins, the incoming CEO of the Intercollegiate Tennis Association, the ITA, about the recent House settlement, what it means for college tennis in particular, and as well, what's going on with college tennis and the various ratings and rankings that are out there, how they're all being used by college coaches to effectively recruit players into their program. Dave is a former college coach himself. He has been around the sport his whole life. He is from Ireland, but has been in the States for quite a while now. And as you'll hear him say, he's been on this podcast multiple times. So if you're interested in listening to some of our previous episodes, just search Dave Mullins on ParentingAces.com. He'll come up. Also, just want to make sure you guys know Dave's contact info will be in the show notes on ParentingAces.com. So if you have further questions or need clarification on anything that we discussed, please feel free to reach out to him. He is super responsive. He's a great guy, very knowledgeable, and just wants what's best for college tennis and for all of our kids that are aspiring to play it. So for now, sit back, relax, and enjoy this bonus episode with Dave Mullins. Welcome back, Dave, and super big congratulations on your new appointment as the CEO of the Intercollegiate Tennis Association. Nice to see you in that role. And, we wish Tim all the best as he transitions to phase next of his professional life and personal life, but are excited to see what you bring to the table.
Thank you, Lisa. It's great to be back with you. I don't know how many episodes we've done now, but you kind of followed my career over the last several years, and always appreciate your support. But yeah, I will transition into the CEO role January 1st of 2025. So myself and Tim are working through that transition plan over the next several months. The board, Tim, John Bogosin, the chair of board, have been so thoughtful about this process and making sure that the ITA doesn't miss a beat. We've got a lot of momentum right now. Obviously, lots going on in the college athletic space that we'll get into. So I'm inheriting, I guess, the organization at a very interesting but critical time. And I think the board of directors recognized in me somebody who has the background, the experience, the relationships now, and also the energy and enthusiasm to really tackle what's to come here in the next few years.
Awesome. And for those that aren't familiar with the ITA, can you just kind of give us the elevator pitch of what the ITA is and what its job is?
Yeah, so ITA stands for Intercollegiate Tennis Association, not International Tennis. I would get that a lot. We're the Intercollegiate Tennis Association. We're the governing body and coaches association of college tennis. So on the coaches association side of things, we do awards, we do coach education. We do, what else am I missing there? We do a lot more on coach education, awards,
mentorship.
On the governing body. Yeah, we have mentorship programs. I guess I'd lump those under coach education. So kind of traditional coaches association within the college space. On the governing body side of things, we do rankings, we do rules. So we work with the NCAA on our rules process. We have an annual rules process. We run championships throughout the year. So we have national indoor championships in the spring. We have regional and national individual championships in the fall. We act as an advocate for college tennis. Obviously, number of stakeholders that we interact with on a weekly basis, whether it's the USTA, ITF, ATP, WTA, and then the NCAA obviously is an important component of that. So we're a little different than a lot of other coaches associations in the collegiate space. We don't manage high school. We don't manage academies. We're very much focused on all divisions of college tennis, which is Division I, II, III, NAIA, junior college. Junior college actually has two divisions, CCCAA and then NJCAA. And we just added wheelchair tennis last year as a new division. So lots going on, but yeah, I think we're well positioned, maybe better positioned than some other sports as we enter this new era of college athletics.
So I want to jump right in, first of all, to this House settlement that just came out last week. So
Mm-hmm.
we are recording this on July 31. That came out July 26, I think, last Friday,
Mm-hmm.
and has a lot of ramifications for college athletics in general. One of the things that jumped out at me as I read it, and has jumped out at a lot of my community members, is this thing about 10 players on a team for tennis. That is your roster limit. Now the number of scholarships that can be offered has been raised to 10 as well on both the men's and the women's side. So I want to just first get you to explain how things are right now, because this new settlement agreement doesn't go into effect until the 2025-26 academic year. So for 2024-25, we are still under the old parameters. Give us that rundown, and then let's compare it to what could be coming next year.
Yeah, so currently for Division I men's and women's tennis, the men are considered equivalency sport. They get 4.5 scholarships to spread out between as many players as they would like. If they want to have 20 players on the roster and give them all, 10%, they can do that. On the women's side, you have 8 full scholarships considered a head count. So what's been proposed in the House settlement, and I should say, there's still going to be lots of challenges to this House settlement. I mean, already 2 states are starting to intervene, and that's a whole other story. But this, we call it the House settlement. I don't think it's settled. But what has been proposed and what might be adopted, which I think likely will be in 25 and 26 academic year, is now that men's and women's tennis will go to 10 roster spots. So there's a cap. You cannot go if you traditionally carried 18 players on your roster, you now need to trim that down to 10. It's up to the athletic department then if they want to raise scholarships up to 10 or keep it at some other number. All sports now are becoming equivalency sports, basically. So it's up to the athletic director, the athletic department, board of trustees, president, etc., what sports they want to invest in to what level. We've heard from several coaches already that their athletic directors have been clear that they're not increasing any scholarships at any sports. I'd be surprised if football does not go from 85 to 105 at every campus. Maybe I'm missing something here, but that would be surprising to me. And so if that happens, then where are they getting the additional monies? The Title IX implications of that, because if you go from 85 to 105, that's additional 20 players. Are you giving now additional scholarships to other women's sports, which you'll have to do? So that's where it currently stands, but this is very fluid, and you might need to have me back on in 3 months for another update, Lisa. I mean, this is
Okay.
Things are happening quickly here.
Right. And let me just clarify, even though the NCAA currently says men's tennis gets 4.5 scholarships, women's tennis gets 8 head count scholarships, that doesn't mean that every Division I school has the funding to provide that number of scholarships, nor are they required to provide that number of scholarships. So each individual university that has a tennis team has to look at their budget and decide how much money they want to allocate to scholarships for tennis. It is different for every school. And so I just want to make that clear that yes, this new settlement is saying that you can offer up to 10 scholarships for men and for women, but not every school is going to have the funds to do that, nor do they have the funds to even offer what they can offer today. So I don't want people to start freaking out over this, because really the only schools that have the money are the power conferences, right? And my concern with this, and I've been voicing this for years, is there's this huge financial disconnect between the haves and the have-nots in college tennis. And even within Division I, there's such a wide range of funding, of, perks that the players get, the way they travel, if they even can afford to travel. There's a lot of discrepancy even within Division I.
And you're right, Lisa. And I think the concern is that there might even be huge discrepancies now within conferences, right? If you take the Big Ten conference and maybe Minnesota decides, and I'm just trying, nobody said anything. I'm just giving examples to make it easier for
we won't hold you to
follow.
It.
No, but let's say Minnesota says, okay, we're on the women's side, we're going from 8 to 10, and Michigan says we're going from 8 to 1, scholarship. And now, so you have one school that has 10 scholarships, another school that has 1 scholarships. The competitive disparity there, even in the conferences, is not what a direction I think any of us want to go. So I guess we're interested in, what do these conferences decide? Do they come together and say, hey, let's all agree that we're going to fund these sports all to the same level in terms of scholarship numbers. So they all agree, okay, tennis, we're all going to say we're going from 4.5 to 5 maybe, and women, we're all going from 8 to 9. And they all agree across the table. I think for many decades, Lisa, they've sat around the table and tried to come to agreement to kind of put a line into the sand to this arms race that's been occurring for decades. And I would imagine there's always one or two athletic directors that says, no, we have the ability to do this. You're not holding us back. If we want to give 10 scholarships, we're going to give 10 scholarships. We're not agreeing to that. And I think that's what's got us to this point, unfortunately. And is this a potential reset moment? Maybe, but that's not going to be determined for several years, I would imagine.
Yeah, interesting. I mean, there's so much unanswered at this point, like you said, and things are changing. The other piece of this is the 10 roster limit. And like you said, there are teams that have 18 players. Well, according to this new settlement, they're going to have to cut 8 of those players. So if you're number 11 or number 12, looks like you're going into the transfer portal, or you're not playing college tennis anymore. Is that correct?
You're correct. I mean, this is a hard cap. Every sport now has a cap. Football traditionally at these bigger programs have carried 120, 130 players. They've had 45, 50 walk-ons. They are now at 105, so they can give 85. They can give up to 105 scholarships, but they could continue with their 85 and then have 20 walk-ons. So everybody's capped. That seems to be something that has been agreed to. Again, we'll see how all this plays out. But yes, those players now, at those teams that feel like they're lower in the depth chart, they're probably going to have to start looking around and determining where their future of their college tennis career belongs, because it may not be at their current place. And I don't know what support those athletes will be given, what conversations are happening with coaches and those players, or will happen over this next year. But I would imagine there'll be players out there looking for new homes. Now, Division I, compared to the other divisions, traditionally they haven't carried as big a numbers, right? We have Division III programs that have 20 players on their roster. So at Division I would imagine a lot of the men's teams maybe carry about 9, and the women carry about 10. So those are averages. So there's going to be teams on either side of that, obviously.
Right. And so the kind of the takeaway from that for kids that are currently in the recruiting process, that are entering their junior year of high school, is you've got a lot more questions you need to be asking as you're talking to these coaches. Also, you've got to widen the funnel. I mean, you can't just talk to a handful of coaches anymore. You're going to have to really put yourself out there, reach out to coaches across all types of schools, all divisions, to give yourself the best opportunity for making that cut to be in their 10 that's on their
Hmm.
roster. Forget the scholarship side of it. Just getting a roster spot now is going to take a lot of negotiation.
It is. I mean, yes. I mean, we've always encouraged, and you have as well, to cast your net as wide as possible. Um, that becomes even more important. The maybe the coaches who are willing to take a chance on a player, they're like, okay, maybe they come in and they are 10, 11, 12, 13 on the depth chart, but I really like the player's attitude. I like their family. I think they can really develop over the next couple of years, and maybe by their junior year, they're in my top six. They're unlikely to take those chances going forward. So this could be very beneficial to the other divisions who often have been an afterthought, unfortunately. Hopefully players going through that process now are looking across the divisions, looking at different opportunities that do exist, because there's a lot of opportunities out there. It's just, it may not be at the big brand name school that they've been following for since they were a young kid.
Right. And again, all of the stuff that we're talking about is only applicable to Division I. These new rules are not enforceable at Division II, Division III, NAIA, or junior colleges. So
Hmm.
there's, I want to keep saying that because I think people
Thank
hear
you.
this and they think it's everything in college tennis. It's not. Division I is being held to a different set of standards with this new
Hmm.
ruling, and the other divisions aren't being held to those standards. And if you think there's not some great college tennis happening at Division II, III, junior college, and NAIA, you are sadly mistaken
Hmm.
and need to go on the ITA's website and look at these teams and understand the level that's out there.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And I know we're going to get into WTN a little bit later in this conversation, but we do have now College Connect tool that gives some basic steps as to how you can go about identifying the right program. But within there is a WTN tool where you can go in, put in your WTN, and it will list a number of colleges within your range that you can, at least as a starting point. It's not supposed to be exhaustive, but you go in there and you start seeing colleges from all the different divisions, which is great. So now you're being exposed to names of colleges that you may not have considered or heard before. It doesn't mean that they don't have a great coach and a great culture and lots of wonderful opportunities to develop as a human being. It's just that you haven't heard of it, and that's okay.
Yeah. All right. Well, since you opened the door to WTN, let's jump into that, because that's
Hmm.
the other piece of this conversation that I was anxious to have with you and was really the impetus for the conversation, quite frankly.
Hmm.
I had emailed you about a post that was in one of our Facebook groups about the ITA Summer Series and the fact that it's being powered by WTN and that UTR was no longer reflecting
Hmm.
results from the ITA Summer Series. What is the role of UTR versus WTN versus ITF ranking, USTA ranking,
Hmm.
tennis recruiting, star rating? I mean, how do all of these different numbers factor in to the recruiting process and what college coaches are really looking at in terms of making decisions as to who they want to bring into their program? And how is that, in your opinion, going to maybe change with these roster limitations?
Mm. Well, firstly, all of these rankings, ratings, they're useful to a coach. I was a college coach for 12 years. There it can be a starting point. It can be a gauge as to where a player's level is at. Um, they definitely are not the be all and end all. Any coach relying purely on a rating is going to make a lot of recruiting errors. because they've relied heavily on that. Recently I'm from Ireland. A friend of mine is coaching a young player. Hey, this guy's really good. His UTR WTN is really low, but I promise he's really good. And I was like, oh, here we go again. But he sent me his video, and I watched his video, and then I look at his results, and I'm like, this guy's really good. And he's like, yeah, I told you. And so there's so many factors involved in this process. I hope parents don't think WTN and UTR is that their players, their kids' futures relies 100% on them. They're helpful starting points. I think, Lisa, what's happening is that when I coached before UTR, and I had a player contact me who clearly wasn't at the level I needed, I had to say that. I had to find a nice way. Hey, you just keep working on your game. I think now a lot of coaches are able to lean on the crutch. Hey, your rating is UTR, WTN. We only accept, this level. Or I'm only looking for this level. But then you go on your roster and they're like, yeah, yeah, you told me you only accept that, but I can see a player or two here that's at this level. So I think it's been kind of a crutch. And I think maybe players, parents, junior coaches have taken that to heart, that, it's the be all and end all. And that's not the case. So all of these tools are useful. They're helpful. They're not perfect. They're accurate to a point. I mean, I think UTR and WTN typically predict the correct outcome of a match 80% of the time. I mean, if we get to 100%, Lisa, why are we playing? Like, we know, why are we playing? So there has to be some give there. I mean, I think somewhere between 75 and 80%, 3/4 of the time. Okay, that's good. So let's start with that. They're helpful, but they're not everything. So I constantly encourage players just to work on their game, work on staying healthy, work on enjoying the game, enjoying the process. Like, the results are going to take care of themselves. Like, it's such a distraction. I mean, players are going around worrying about these ratings and distracting themselves and worrying about it, all this wasted energy and time. It's like, just go get better. You will start picking up good results. The coaches, yes, they might use the rating or ranking as a starting point, but very quickly they're looking at the results. And then very quickly after that, they're either watching you play or they're watching a video, just like the example I gave earlier. And then they're forming this full picture, your academic profile, your relationship with your parents. What are other people saying about you? There's so much that goes in. These are huge investments that coaches are making. We've got now programs where it's, I don't know, $85,000 a year scholarship, plus Alston money, plus cost of attendance money, plus maybe name, image, and likeness, plus all the other investments that go in. Like, these are huge investments. And to think a coach is going to make a decision just based on a rating is misplaced and unfair to everybody involved in this process. So what was the second part of your question, Lisa?
I don't remember now.
All right, we might come back to it, but that's again, we're just going to keep reiterating. Focus on your game, focus on getting better, becoming a better competitor, an all-round player, demonstrate how you're going to add value to a collegiate team, why a coach should consider you for a scholarship. It's beyond ratings. We just need to start pushing past that.
Well, and I want to just kind of go back a minute to this whole, the roster limits and everything. If these schools are going to increase the amount of scholarship money that they have to offer, my guess is the budgets are going to be cut somewhere else in order to offset the increased scholarship money. Or I don't know how they find the money and what pots of money they draw from. But we've already seen, especially starting in 2020, a reduction in travel for college coaches to go attend junior tournaments and actually watch these kids live and in person, other than in their local community. Have you gotten any sense from the college coaches about how their travel might be impacted moving forward if they are to offer more scholarships? Is that going to come out of their recruiting budget? Or
Mm.
what are coaches saying about how they're going to find these kids to come fill those 10 roster spots?
Yeah, I think right now, Lisa, it's wait and see. I mean, that's what we're hearing a lot. I mean, that's what their athletic directors are also telling the coaches within their athletic department. Hey, we know change is coming. We don't know exactly what it is. We have to wait and see. And I would imagine, as we talked about the average size of a roster, 9, 10, somewhere in there. Uh, my guess is that most places are going to leave the scholarships where they are, 4.5 and 8. I don't think that's going to change. It could change over time, over the course of several years.
Mhm.
So I don't think a lot is going to change in the short term in terms of, oh, now we're going from 4.5 to 9 or 10 on the men's side. So now we need to, travel more to find these players. I think if they already have a roster, size of 9 or 10 on the men's side, they're already trying to identify that many players and then figuring out how do we present a financial aid package that attracts this player, academic scholarship plus athletic aid. So I don't really think it's going to impact that. I mean, as I've talked to athletic directors, they're like, look, Dave, tennis is already a cheap sport. They're like telling me not to worry. I'm tearing my hair out, but
Yeah.
they're like, hey, look, tennis is a cheap sport. It's we don't really see a lot of changes or impact happening to tennis, you know, because we're trying to come up with, and our operating committees as well, are there things that we can propose? Are there changes we maybe make to our fall season? Is there regional models that could be considered that might save some travel costs here and there? And the athletic directors are telling me, look, it's kind of a drop in a bucket. Yeah, you can shave 5,000 here, or you can take 2,000 away from your recruiting budget. Like it's not getting us to this $25 million number we have to get to. So
Yeah.
don't worry about it. And it's nice of them to say, but like I said, we're not resting. We're not sitting on our hands, and uh, not. I don't say. Obviously, we're going to worry about it, but that only gets you so far, right? You've got to take action.
Are you hearing any buzz about more Division I college programs being cut? Because that was, I think, one of the immediate responses to
Right.
this ruling is like, oh God, here we go again. Tennis is going to be on the chopping block to make room for these
Hmm.
additional football scholarships and basketball scholarships.
Yeah. There seems to be again, speaking with athletic directors, we have some on our board. Speaking with them, they and even things that I'm reading, I feel like the conversation has switched a little bit. I do think there's actually more discussion about non-revenue Olympic sports than there ever has been. And I think that story is getting told a little bit clearer now. I think people are worried about it, and there seems to be a lot of goodwill amongst administrators not to cut any sports. That they've got to identify other ways to generate revenue. They've got to be smarter with how they are spending money. They are looking at, are there ways, we have the community hub model in college tennis and selling memberships at facilities, running programming. A lot of other facilities don't do that, but I think colleges are now looking at how do we best use our space, our facilities. Are there admin? A lot of them will talk about their admin positions have bloated quite a lot in recent years or recent decades. Are there cuts there that need to be made? It's like what they're telling us is the last thing they want to do is cut sports. They are
Okay.
going to identify all these other areas to cut before they look at sports. And so again, nice to hear, reassuring right now, but this, as we're saying, this everything's so fluid, dynamic, moving quickly. where are we a year from now? We're trying to be optimistic, but yeah, cautious at the same time.
Yeah, and I think honestly, who wins out of all this is Division III, quite honestly,
Mm,
because they're not being held to the same set of rules, and they have a lot more flexibility. And I want to just point out something you mentioned a second ago when you were talking about the financial aid packages that these Division I coaches are trying to put together for recruits. You mentioned academic scholarship. So
mhm.
let me just say this for the 9 millionth time to you guys. Grades matter. They matter to these college coaches. And I know that tennis opens the door for kids that may not have the academic standard that a non-athlete might need to meet to get accepted into the university, but you still have to have good grades. The coach still has to have
Yep.
faith that you're going to be able to manage the academic rigor of their school. The admissions department has to have faith that you're going to be able to manage the academic rigor of the school. Don't slack off in high school thinking tennis is going to be your door opener to any school you want to go to. That just isn't true.
Hmm. Yeah, and that could become even more important going forward. I mean, if a conference, like I was saying, if a conference comes together and says, okay, men's tennis, we're all going to agree that we're going to go from 4.5 to 2 scholarships. Well, again, those grades are going to be, if you want to play at in that conference Division I tennis, those grades very much could be the difference between your family being able to afford to send you there and not, or you maybe jumping somebody else that was on the coach's list because now it's more affordable for you to be there. So yes, the grades, they've always been important. I think heading into this new era, even take on more importance.
Yeah, for sure. Um, what else is happening in the world of college tennis besides all the craziness that we've been hearing in the news the last week?
Yeah, lots going on, Lisa. This fall is the first year that we are piloting a new pathway to the NCAA singles and doubles Division I championships. So traditionally, the team NCAA event has happened in May, and then there's a day off, and then they go straight into singles and doubles. Again, pros and cons to that. For several years, several decades, really, coaches were saying, hey, we should have the individuals in the fall. We have an individual season. Why is the NCAA tournament not there? And we have a defined team season. So the NCAA have agreed to pilot for 2 years, having the singles and doubles championships in November. And rather than using rankings or ITA rankings to qualify players, there will be a play-in. So we have like our All-American championships. You have to reach the quarterfinals. If you reach the quarterfinals, then you've booked your spot at the NCAA tournament. Same with our regional events. You make the final, you've booked your spot. We have these new sectional and conference masters events that will be happening to qualify players throughout the year. So this is a 2-year pilot. We're interested to see how it works. Do we get the best players in the tournament? Do we have the players that are maybe favored to go far in the tournament? Do they do so? Because uh, the number of withdrawals from the singles and doubles championships in May over the last few years it keeps going up.
Mm-hmm.
And then you have players that are exhausted from the team event. Maybe they made the final four or the finals, and they're like, I'm exhausted. I mean, some of them try and go out and play, but they're not 100%. And oftentimes the best teams have the best players, right? I mean,
Yeah.
and so they maybe have not had a fair shot at winning an NCAA singles or doubles title. So that's a 2-year pilot. We'll see how year one goes. I'd imagine there'll be some tweaks implemented to year two. So that's a big change.
Let me just
Yeah, go
interject
ahead.
really quickly. Another piece of having the individual tournament in the spring is a lot of these schools are still in session during the
Mm,
NCAA tournament in the spring. And
mm-hmm.
so not only are these players competing, but they're dealing with schoolwork, final exams, et cetera, et cetera. And that's a huge ask So I think moving
Yeah.
the individual tournament to the fall is at least going to shorten that spring commitment and hopefully give these kids a little bit of a break academically.
Yeah, that again, that's there were several reasons. That's definitely, I mean, student athlete welfare. I mean, in 2006, when I was coaching at Northwestern, our team made the quarterfinals, and it was out in Stanford. Our team made the quarterfinals of the team tournament, and then we actually had a pair win the doubles. And we were there for 15 days, and Northwestern's on the quarter system. So they've missed literally 2 weeks of class there and have to go back and then take finals in June. So that's happening more than we'd like. The other part of it, and I don't think this gets enough acknowledgement, tennis industry as a whole, the those are long days, right?
Yeah.
For staff, for trainers, for marketing communications folks, tournament directors, officials. These are really long days, and to ask them to do that for 14, 15 days is a huge ask. And so I think lots of reasons there for that to happen. And look, we'll see how it goes.
Yeah. Okay. Sorry, I didn't mean to stop your flow, but I wanted to
No,
just bring that up as well.
yeah. I mean, the other big change is Division III scoring format. So this has been in the works for I don't know, 6, 7 years. I believe it was 2015. Division I moved to the new scoring format that Division I uses: 6 game double sets instead of 8 games. The no ad scoring, 5 minutes between doubles and singles. Uh, and so Division II adopted that a year later. NAIA adopted it. Junior college has never been particularly interested, but we had a percentage of Division III college coaches who were very interested, but we also had another group highly disinterested in it. And so over time, through the years, different pilots have been done, different surveys, ITA working with the NCAA Tennis Committee on really hashing out what this looks like. But this is the first year that there'll be a year-long pilot. So all non-conference dual matches at Division III level will use the D1 format, and then the NCAA tournament, and then conferences get to decide if they want to use the D1 format or some other format, the Division III. So if that goes well this year, that will likely be adopted. So now you have Division I, II, III, NAIA, all using the same scoring format. So it makes life easier for the public to understand maybe what formats used at college tennis, officials, players coming into it as they're looking to prepare to come to college tennis. So that's another big change. We have other rule changes that are happening around, the sportsmanship side of things. I think we see this at every level of tennis, unfortunately, whether it's, adult league tennis all the way down to, under 10s tournaments, and how are some improvements made there. And electronic line calling is one piece of it that we're exploring a lot. We've done some shadow testing. We're going to have some pilot testing with some groups going into this new academic year. But there's a point penalty system in college tennis. So if you are overruled twice by the umpire, the next overrule, you would get a point penalty in singles, and then it would go game and then default. And we're actually reducing that from 2 kind of warnings to 1. So you'll get overruled once. The second time you get overruled, you're losing a point. So that's something the ITA, we take our process, our rules process very seriously. We get a lot of feedback from coaches and try to make these tweaks on an annual basis. And that's one tweak we're making this year, among some others. Aligning bathroom breaks, timeouts, things like that, injury timeouts. So trying to bring more cohesion to all divisions, which isn't always that easy, Lisa.
Yeah, I can imagine. I can imagine. And, it's so interesting, Dave, with social media now, these bad line calls get broadcast. I
I
mean,
know.
they go
Yeah.
viral. It's wild to see who comments on them,
Mhm.
and kind of the underlying sentiment has been, well, this is college tennis. It's always been like this. There's tons of bad
Mhm.
line calls going on and tons of gamesmanship happening, and it's the same that's happening in junior tennis. Thankfully, I think junior tennis is moving toward using electronic line calling more.
Yep.
I wrote about a tournament I recently went to where it was in play, and getting ready to go to another tournament that's going to be using it, and the players love it. I mean, it takes
Yeah.
all the stress out of the match, right? You go and
Hmm.
you're going to have a fair match.
Hmm.
And I'll be interested to see how college tennis responds to that, because frankly, as somebody sitting in the stands, it's kind of fun when they have those battles over the bad line calls. I get that, we want our kids to behave and we want them to use good sportsmanship and all that, but it does make it a little exciting. So it'll
Yeah.
be interesting to kind of follow this and see what the response is from the players, from the coaches, from the officials,
Mm.
you
Yeah.
know.
Yeah. There's a lot of groups involved there, and
Yeah.
with look, it's not going to happen overnight. I mean, it's technology. Technology breaks down, and these are, as we talk about the rules process,
And
it's like,
costs
okay,
money, by the way.
eh, absolutely. I mean, that's,
Yeah.
as we're talking about cost and where colleges are going to find this 25 million to pay their football players, etc. You know, investing in this technology that we would say isn't wholly necessary,
Yeah.
right? And so we've got officials. They cost a lot of money as well, especially depending what part of the country you're in and paying for mileage. So yeah, there's a lot to be worked out there, but I think we're heading in a good direction. Traditionally, technology costs come down over time as an infrastructure is implemented, and the production and the amount of people purchasing these items. So we definitely want to be a part of that process. It has a role to play. A lot of the impetus for when issues occur, again, at any level, it starts with the line call, right, and then it
Yeah.
can escalate from there, and that's when doesn't get it can get a little bit nasty. But yeah, college tennis isn't alone. Like, I've been to millions of college matches. I was a coach myself. It's a small percentage. It's a small percentage, and then they get blown up on social media, and people want to say, "Oh, this is just college tennis." It's not. I mean, it's unfair to all the players and coaches who are really trying to do it the right way. And we've all seen players who are err on the other side too much, right? As a coach, you're
Yeah.
you're you're going crazy, like, hey, a ball was a foot out and you're still playing it. So yeah, look, it's like any industry. There's good and bad eggs in all sides of it, but ELC will play a role going forward for sure.
And I mean, does USTA help out with these kinds of expenses? Are there conversations happening? Because I know you guys work pretty intimately with USTA. College tennis is a crucial part of the junior developmental pathway in this country.
Mhm.
What is their role in helping to offset some of these costs?
Yeah, they seemed very interested in trying to help with that, identifying the facilities where we can get started, and so uh, obviously there's certain events that we do. We talk about regional and all American. So like our all American championships on the men's side, that's been at the University of Tulsa for a very long time. That could be a good place to start. So the USTA
Yeah.
might be interested in making an investment to get things started at that term, because you've got so many programs, so many players, coaches that participate in that event. So they're all using it, they're getting to experience it, they're getting to ask questions. And then hopefully from there, word gets out and it starts to grow. So yes, USDA have been great to work with, and continue to be interested in identifying ways in which they can help college tennis, and this is one. So yeah, we look forward to working with them on this. It's, again, interesting time, and we need all the help we can get.
So one last thing before we wrap up is I want to point out that college tennis has been in the media in a really positive way over the past few months with the Summer Slams, with the Olympics, having so many former college players showing success at the highest level of our sport. What do you attribute that to? And how do we make that continue moving forward? How do we get these really good juniors to go to college and continue to grow as individuals and as tennis players for at least a couple years before setting out on a professional tennis path?
Yeah, luckily it's been wonderful to see that, and to tune into, say, Wimbledon and hearing the commentators constantly talking about this player played here and this their background and graphics coming up. Like that's unheard of. At least since I've been involved.
Yeah.
So I attribute the coach. Most of it goes to our coaches. I mean, they have done an incredible job going out and convincing players that college is the best route for them. And obviously, as more resources have gone into college tennis and other college sports, as we said, I mean, the facilities now on these campuses for tennis and other sports, strength and conditioning rooms, the type of support staff that's around them. We have third coaches now at several institutions. You've got 8 players and you got 3 coaches. That's a pretty good ratio in my book. So you've got the coaches doing a great job. You've got the resources behind them to help with that process. You've got stories to tell now of players. You've got the agreement that we have with the ATP and the WTA and the ITF with our accelerator programs. The USTA are also giving more wild cards to US collegiate players coming through the collegiate system. So I think it's a combination of all those things, but it starts with our coaches for sure.
I love that. Well, Dave, thank you for answering these questions, for clearing up as best you could some of this murky water that we seem to find ourselves in at the moment while we wait for this House settlement to settle and to see what's going to happen moving forward. I am going to definitely get you back on as we have more information and as the academic year starts and we start to better understand what's coming, and how the schools are responding, both from a financial side and a recruiting side. But I do feel like I hope we've answered at least the pressing questions that I've been getting. And if the audience takes away anything from this conversation, my hope is that college tennis is still a great product. There are incredible opportunities to continue to play the sport, to have your education at least partially funded through playing the sport. And if professional tennis is part of your dream moving forward, that college tennis can help you achieve that. And, the key is to recruit well, to recruit smartly, and to do your homework as a player and as a family to understand what you're signing up for when you do make that final decision about where to go.
Yeah, I think that's very well put, Lisa. If I'm a parent right now, I wouldn't be panicking. I wouldn't think this whole system is going to be blown up and, oh my God, I've invested and my kids invested all this time and this was their goal and now this is going away. That's not the case. If it does become the case at some point, we'll let you know. But whatever path you're on, continue to go on that path. Don't necessarily change your patterns of play. Don't get too obsessed with ratings. Work on your game. Keep getting better. Keep pointing yourself in the direction of college tennis if that's a goal you set for yourself. So I think for now, kind of as the ADs are preaching, there is change coming. We don't know what that looks like right now, but continue to pay attention and let's not panic or freak out or do things too differently to what we have been done. We've got some momentum. We're going in a good direction. Let's just manage this turbulent time, and let's come out the other side of it even better and stronger.
Love that. Dave Mullins, thanks so much for your time. It's always a pleasure. To my audience, thank you so much for tuning in. We will catch you next time on Parenting Aces.